We are going to call the meeting to order at 7:07. And Melissa, can you call roll?
Melissa Denton, Carl Hubner, Tim Meyer, Richard Poore, Robert Weimer, and for the record, the Pinkerton Student School Board member, Ellie Murray, has already informed the board that she has a prior commitment tonight, so she will not be attending. Also seated at the board table, Superintendent Bob Thompson and CFO Jeff Dowd. You're welcome.
Pledge of Allegiance. Carl is going to lead us.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which is
For our packets, we have 3 sets of meeting minutes from, March 24th reorganizational meeting, the regular meeting, and a non-public meeting. If you could look them over.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for March 24th for the order meeting, the regular meeting, and the non-public meeting.
Second.
Board members, any discussion? So moved. No. All those, what? All approved. All right. And Melissa, is there any signed up for public comments?
not at this point in time. We don't have anyone signed up. Thank you.
Okay, first item on the agenda is school highlights. Amy Bernard.
Try that again. All right. Good evening. So I found it to be fitting that this month's school highlights are going to be done by none other than the girl that I had the privilege of chaperoning at our Washington D.C. trip for the 8th graders that we were just on. They're absolutely outstanding. It was a pleasure to spend some with them, and since this is a big portion of school highlights, I'm going to introduce them, and they're going to share them with you. So we have 8th graders Haley Freeman, Callie Baker, Grace Chibri, and Lily Pappalardo. Come on up, girls.
Into the Woods production. On March 13th and 14th, HMS had the pleasure of presenting the incredible production of Into the Woods musical to our school community. After hard work and relentless dedication, our students brought to life the production and entered the plots of the fairy tales such as Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Jack and Stock. Their performance, song, and dance to the technical aspect of production were truly remarkable. The set design and transport to a magical fairy tale land truly adding to the show. Special thanks goes out to Miss Farrell, Mr. Robbins, and all Arcaded staff and volunteers, the students who supported the students throughout this journey. Their commitment and guidance made this production a memorable experience for everyone involved.
Washington, D.C. trip.
We are thrilled to share the highlights from our recent 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C., a 3-day journey filled with history, civic learning, and an unforgettable experience for our students. Day 1, exploring Philadelphia. Our adventure began early in the morning at departed Hampstead for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Upon arrival, students met with knowledgeable local guides and participated in a walking tour of historical sites that brought early American history to life. Highlights included Carpenter's Hall, Congress Hall, Betsy Ross's house, the Liberty Bell, Christ Church, Franklin Court, and the exterior Independence Hall. Students were engaged and reflective, gaining a deeper appreciation for the foundations of our democracy. Day 2, honoring service and exploring museums. Day 2 began at Arlington National Cemetery, where we witnessed the solemn changing of the guard ceremony at the unknown soldier. Students also visited the Kennedy gravesite, which deepened their understanding of national service and sacrifice. Then students took a walk to National Museum of Natural History and the American History Museum, each offering interactive and educational exhibits that sparked curiosity and discovery. The afternoon ended with an exterior view of the White House, with many opportunities for pictures. After dinner at the Hard Rock, we toured Lincoln Memorial, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial for some great nighttime viewing. Day 3, Washington, D.C. Landmarks and Memorials. The following morning, we headed to Washington, D.C. to continue our exploration. We started the day by touring the Capitol building. After lunch, we toured the Ford Theater and continued to the powerful and moving monument and memorial, with stops at the Washington Monument and Reflecting Pool, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and the World War II Memorial. These visits prompted meaningful conversations about history, sacrifice, values we strive to uphold. We concluded our trip with a night to Dave & Buster's, providing students with a chance to unwind, reflect, and celebrate an unforgettable experience with their. This trip was not only a valuable educational opportunity, but also a chance for students to build independent social connections and lifelong memories. The bigger curiosity and respect for the trip made us incredibly proud. When some of the 8th grade students were asked to reflect on the experience, they shared some of the following thoughts.
This field trip brought us all closer together. I felt a sense of independence from being away from my family. The Vietnam Memorial was very impactful and a good place to reflect. Our tour guide was amazing. He shared so many memories of his own stories. I actually stood at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial in the same place that Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. We gave a heartfelt thanks to our dedicated staff and parent chaperones and parent supporters who helped make this experience safe, smooth, and meaningful for all.
Sam Dema guest speaker. On March 30th, HMS welcomed guest speaker Sam Dema, a best-selling author and highly sought-after speaker. Sam has delivered over 750 presentations across Canada, the United States, and Kenya. He is also a 2-time TEDx speaker, and his online videos have reached more than 300 million views worldwide. During his visit, Sam shared a powerful message with our students about the importance of caring for one another. He reminded us that we never truly know what someone else may be going through, encouraging students to show empathy and support for their peers. A central theme of his talk was the idea of emptying your backpack, a metaphor for letting go of limiting beliefs, negative thoughts, and the weight of others' opinions that can hold us back from reaching our full potential. As Sam shared, people's words about you almost never have anything to do with you and are almost always a reflection of themselves. He encouraged students to feel good, and empathize with others. In asking our students to reflect on this presentation, they shared, "He changed my perspective on others. He was relatable and blended humor to get his message across. He was motivational and approachable. I will be positive to others. You never know how it can change someone's day. I appreciated his experience and will remember his stories. I thought about what was in my own backpack and what I could let go of. This impactful event marks the beginning of our trimester of wellness and kindness as we approach the end of the school year. Throughout this time, we will focus on small acts that can
Math and physics come to life. As a accumulating experience of our 8th grade physics unit, we welcome Trooper Cortelli from the New Hampshire State Police to HMS. Trooper Cortelli is a member of the Collision Analysis and Reconstruction Unit, and he spoke with students about math and physics involved in crash investigation. He tailored his presentation specifically to school by creating a fictional accident scenario at the corner of Main Street and School Street. Using this example, he walked students through the same steps he would take in a real investigation. He also introduced them to the tools he uses in his work, including drones, computer software, and 3D printing technology. Throughout the presentation, Trooper Cortelli made strong connections to concepts students have learned this year in both math and science. He demonstrated how X and Y coordinates to map a scene and how principles such as Newton's laws of motion, unit rate, angles, speed, velocity, kinetic energy, and friction all play a role in determining what happened in a crash. Students were highly engaged, and he took time to answer a wide range of thoughtful questions. It was a valuable opportunity for students to see how the concepts they've learned in class are applied in real-world situations they may not have previously considered.
Didn't they do great? So great. Do you have any questions for them?
Great time. I got to see some 8th graders at the meet and greet, and they had all the things to say about Washington DC as well, and bonding together.
I really like the inclusion of the student perspective in this. I thought that was a nice touch.
Thank you, thank you. And they were such a good group. We had 8 students, in a heightened time for security, as we all know. And when we said to them, let's stay close, this plan, all of them, just jumped at that and did exactly what was asked and took it very seriously. And we really made the most of the experience. So really proud of these guys. And the last part of the update is I'd just like to share some schedule updates with you as we go into the 26-27 school year. So we're to share a proposal schedule for next year that includes 60-minute core instructional classes for all grade levels. After seeing the strong success with our fifth grade, our current fifth grade students participating in hour-long classes, we identified this as a priority to expand across the school. Under the schedule, science, math, ELA, and social studies will each have 60 minutes in length. Unified arts classes will run for 4 minutes, and our flex period will also be 40 minutes. Additionally, our advisor will be moved to the end of the day. When surveying the staff about this, they thought that this change would better support students, providing a structured opportunity to get organized and prepare them before heading out of home. Current class sizes support this adjustment, as all 4 grade levels will be maintain a maximum student-to-teacher ratio of 24:1. We're excited to offer opportunity for extended core academic classes, which will allow teachers to deepen instruction and enhance student learning. The return to a 40-minute flex will also allow us to strengthen our enrichment and intervention opportunities as well. So I did provide you with a copy of the schedule that we are proposing, and I'll take any questions.
Okay. All right. So just a couple of questions. So you said 60 minutes, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
But some of them are listed as 55 and 65.
Yeah, so we're saying around about, hear me? Okay, yeah. So we're saying around about 60 minutes. The reason for the 65, which is still open to change, this sounds funny, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that people at home can hear. The thought with the 65 minutes for the first period was to allow for some students coming in at the beginning of the day and making sure that they had that full 60-minute time block. So that's why it's just slightly different.
Yeah, no, I was curious because I didn't know if, like, I don't know, some schools said we're going to give ELA 65 minutes, we're going to give full studies 55 minutes, and they kind of try to do that, which I didn't know if that was a thing. But in terms of the flex block, is that also for like special education services, those C-grid services, you'll pull kids out and versus pulling them out of core content?
Yep, when at all possible. And we're doing that now, but our flex block is 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I really feel like just in experiencing 2 years of the schedule, the 40 minutes does allow for more time for that. And also, we had a lot of collaboration at the central school last year. I think it's a little bit harder to do that. Kids will have to miss time when we 30-minute block. So this will allow for that too, among other things. So.
And then my last question. I always, when I see advisory on a middle school schedule, but sometimes advisory is very vague, and no one really knows what happens there. So I'm just curious, what are the...
So we do have a committee of teachers that, it's an advisory committee, and they do work on school-wide initiatives and different programs that we put out throughout our school. It's a time for SEL, like specifically within our school. We also do this as a way of doing some community service projects, things of that nature. So we utilize advisory for a connection. We know how important it is for students to have a trusted adult, and also to kind of push out some of those really important SEL things.
I love that.
And I will also say too, in putting it at the end of the day, we're hoping that more of our students will be participating, because we do notice that many students come in late and they miss that. And I think sometimes at home, our parents don't necessarily see the value. They don't really understand what's going on in advisory. And so they think, oh, we'll just come in after when the first academic class happens. So this way, we'll make sure that we ensure that we get it every single day.
I think it would be great at some point to have maybe some representatives from that committee come to a board meeting and, give a little bit of an update about things that they plan on rolling out next year to kind of continue to build on that.
Sure, absolutely.
But I think this looks great. It's good work.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you responding to some of the suggestions that the board had, and I appreciate you and the staff for taking this on, because anytime you touch the schedule, it's a nightmare. Yeah, so thank you for your response. Do the students stay with the same teacher for advisory for all 4 years, or is it grade-based?
No, so that's a great question. And from Pinkerton Academy, they were using that model for the 4 years. We have been switching the advisories each year so that our teachers take that same year, and then a lot of the same teachers that would work with them, like the special ed teachers, will that year too. So the kids, the teachers that kids will work with are there. So I'm open to that, and that's things that we have discussed, but we just haven't moved in that direction.
Yeah, I think in middle school you could go either way, and whatever you and the teachers feel successful. I was just wondering, and then for the labor contractual prep is fine with this schedule, like it meets what we need.
Yeah, because the academic block, the UA would be 40 minutes. They have 2 40-minute blocks. They have the 30-minute lunch.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. This is really hard, and we appreciate it.
Any other questions?
and some of the feedback I got from students at the meet and greet, because I asked them what they liked about school and what they would change, and they really had to think about what they would change. But they all said they wished that Flex was longer, so this is exciting to see it's longer.
All right.
They were thankful for ventures and other things, and all the opportunities they get here. The only other thing they mentioned was lunch, which I know is a constant thing, wishing lunch was longer.
Interesting.
Because the line is longer, and if you're getting hot lunch, this is what I heard. I don't know. Is there
I'm
ever,
looking for some feedback there.
if there was ever a time if students could opt out of recess to finish eating lunch, and just something to throw out there. And I don't know if it works in the schedule, but I said I would ask. so.
Okay. Okay, noted. I'm going to ask Mr. Poor, do you think that students should have longer lunches in your experience?
It depends. I'd have to see the flow of that line.
Well, we know what they do with idle time, right? So. And any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Okay. And moving on for Mr. Thompson, HCS donation for the book vending machine.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cheney.
Hi, everyone. So in accordance with Board Policy KCD, I'm asking the board for consideration this evening of a donation from the Children's Literacy Council for 500 books that they have donated for our book vending machine. It's estimated that the retail value of these books is well over $4,000. What questions do you have?
I have no questions. Can we just make the motion? I will gladly make that motion. Much thanks.
Second.
All those approved.
Any discussion?
What do I say?
Any discussion?
Any discussion, sorry.
I don't know anything about it, so perhaps it'd be helpful for me to get a little.
Can I just ask well, actually, I think Mr.
Little
Weimer
primer.
was looking for a little quick explanation about what the book vending machine is.
Yes, so at HCS, we have a book vending machine, and it ties in with our social emotional learning curriculum. Every month, we have a targeted skill or behavior that we're looking for in our hallways and in our classrooms. So some months it might be friendship, it might be kindness, it might be helpfulness, it might even be gratitude. And so teachers identify students who are exemplary at this trait, and they submit their names to get a book out of our book vending machine. The book vending machine has a variety of topics. It has fiction and informational text, it has chapter books, it has picture books. It really is the highlight of Kids A year when to come and pick out a book. Frankly, the teachers admire it as well, and they work really hard on the readers too. But these books were donated through the Children's Literacy Council through a partnership with Julie Barbic. So Julie Barbic recently did a big initiative with School Breakfast Week, and Children's Literacy Council reached out and said, we'd like to participate in this too, because we believe that not only is school breakfast a really important part of students' day, but so is reading. And so they offered to donate a title for every student in our school. And it's a very similar makeup of books. Some are paperbacks, some are hardcovers, some are informational, some are picture books, lots of chapter books, but all very high interest current literature that are exciting our students.
If I might, Madam Chair. How do you select, or how are the books' titles selected?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our reading specialists and librarians work closely together to find books that are of high interest. Our librarian, for example, might say, oh goodness, all the Mo Willem books are hot right now with our first graders. We'll purchase some of those to put into the vending machine. But it is a collaboration between the librarian and our school counselor. Sorry, not our school counselor, our school reading specialist.
If there are parents or community members that would like to donate books for the book vending machine, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so we have on our website, we have a list of titles that we're looking for and some parameters around what books, if they don't find anything on that list that they may like. And people are encouraged either to buy off our list or to submit a monetary donation and we'll purchase the books. Please help.
Thank you.
I have a question. If someone were interested in knowing what the titles were, how would they get that list?
Yeah, so it's right on our website. If
Great.
you'd like, I'd be happy to send it along.
No, I'm more than happy to go to the website.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's, if you bullet it, there's a story that made WMUR a couple of years ago, and, oh, right there.
Oh, okay.
And it also made it into the Boston Globe.
Well,
And,
there you go.
You have to demonstrate good behavior, Dr. Barr, to get the book, so.
That's
You've
going to
got
be
this.
tough.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
no other discussion or comments. We had a motion, we had a second, we need to vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. We have to raise our hands, is that it?
Thank you.
Can you see all the way down here?
We enjoy your enthusiasm for education and reading. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the deputy treasurer appointment and Mr.
If we could maybe back up to the.
Sorry, I forgot the most
That's okay.
important thing that everyone
That's why a
watching would
lot of
wanna
people are
know.
watching right now. They want to
I'm
know when the
so
last day of school is.
sorry. I apologize to everybody at home. It's my first time. The 26, 27 calendar.
Yeah.
This is 25, 26 school calendar?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
I
current
see it.
school year.
My goodness, okay. Yes.
So, one of the important roles of the school board is to determine what the last student day of school is. Now, we have certain parameters that we have to meet. That includes requirement of hours from the New Hampshire Education Department, as well as the requirement for 180 school days that's set in our bargaining agreement. And so I'm recommending that we make the last day of school, that would be Friday, June 19th, a half day of school. And why the 19th? Well, we've had 2 snow days because the original last day of school was going to be the Wednesday. And then we also engaged in a remote learning day, which we really appreciate our educators and how hard they worked on that day. So I'm recommending to the board June 19th be the last student day of school. I'll entertain questions that the board might have.
Board members?
And we're able to do that because we've met the hours requirement, even though we haven't hit the days requirement. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so the New Hampshire Education Department only operates in hours. And so for kindergarten, there's a 450-hour requirement. For first grade through 6th grade, there's a 900-hour requirement. And then 7th grade through 12th grade is 990 hours, instructional hours. However, our collective bargaining agreements state that we have to have 180 student days. And so by setting the day at Friday, we have met the obligations in the collective bargaining agreements. If the board were to select a different day, then any motion or action by the board need to go back and get some clarification with the with associations on that. So,
Any other comments?
I have a question, if I might. It's showing here a professional learning day on the Thursday of that week, is that correct?
that would be the original calendar. So when the board sets the calendar, and this is a little bit of the confusion, the 25-26 calendar, when the board sets it, and the board set the calendar in February, that calendar does not change. Like even when we have snows, like that's the board approved calendar. You could, in theory, go back and change the calendar every time we had a snow day, but that wouldn't be efficient. So everything comes to this moment where now that we've had the snow days, now we're sort of going back and we are sort of adjusting the calendar. So what you saw originally as a professional learning day will now be moved to Monday. So we have the last student day will be Friday, a half day. Okay. The second half of that will be professional learning, wrapping up the year with teachers, and then the Monday would be a professional learning day for staff. For archers. And that's really them just wrapping up any last minute needs that they have at the end of the year.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll just say this, that, and people laughed at this, but it is not out of the realm of impossibility that we could have another snow day. Like, that is possible, okay? And I'm gonna knock on wood now that I said it. The board setting the calendar, you're setting the date. And so there's really sort of no going back. And this is why we wait until April to actually set the date. People start to ask us about this in January. We don't want to pick the date in January. So just be aware that if we have the ice storm of 2026, we still will have the last day of school on June 19th.
And that would be a traditional snow day.
That would likely be a traditional snow day.
I'll make a motion to make the 19th, June 19th, the last day of school for students.
Second.
Any discussion?
Reached out to council just to confirm the ability of the district to have someone as an assistant or deputy treasurer who is not a resident of town. Our attorneys came up with logic that if the position is voted, that person would have to be a resident of town in order to get into that position. The assistant is appointed, not voted, but unless the idea would be that position would roll into the treasurer position should the treasurer not be able to serve for whatever reason. So his logic is that it really should be a resident for both the treasurer and the deputy treasurer. I may not 100% agree with it. That's okay. So we have solicited some names from in town, and I've reached out, and hopefully we'll have an update at the next meeting of someone that our treasurer can put forward.
Next up, full-day kindergarten program discussion. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. So at the last board meeting, we had a very brief discussion regarding planning for the 26-27 school year, and we just kindergarten. In fact, Dr. Chain was at that meeting, answered lots of questions online, which I really appreciated. And there were some ideas or conversation about the possibility of adding even a pilot or a universal garden, at least for next year. And so Dr. Haney has done a tremendous amount of work presenting a proposal for what that might look like should the board choose to move in that direction. And at this time, so you have a copy of that proposal in your kit. We'll also put it on the big screen. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cheney.
So we are recommending your consideration for the implementation of a...
Sorry to interrupt you. Can we just make sure the mic is working?
It is now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yep.
I'll just regular voice now. We're asking for your consideration of a one-year pilot for universal full-day kindergarten program for the 26-27 year. The goal of this program is really to expand access to early learning and to strengthen student readiness. So during the pilot year, I'm recommending that tuition be waived for all students to ensure equitable access for all families in HED. The program would be designed to have 5 classrooms staffed with 5 regular ed para educators, and we can actually add that right through our current staffing levels. So there's no additional cost staffing at this time. One of the reasons for this proposal is really the limitations of half-day kindergarten. While our half-day kindergarten teachers are dedicated, talented, and work very hard with our students, The half-day kindergarten model, by its very nature, limits the instructional time. Students have 2.5 hours when they're at school a day, as opposed to their peers who are at school almost 6.5 hours a day. And this really does reduce their opportunities for literacy, numeracy, and even their social development that we know is critical in early childhood. Our half-day kindergarten teachers do a tremendous job of squishing in as literacy and math as they can during that time, but that also limits our ability to support kids in the way that we know that they learn, which is through play and exploration. So if we look at a comparison of our kindergarten programs, in a half-day program, students typically have about 2 hours of academic instruction versus their counterparts in our full-day program who have at least 4 hours of instruction a day. Unified Art, which is a great part of our program and something I'm really proud of at Hampstead Central School. Our students in half-day kindergarten only have access to PE, music, and that for the week. They, in our full-day program, which that's backwards, so my apology. In our full-day program, students have PE, music, technology, art. They actually have 3 PEs a week, which is great for their development. And then in our half-day program, our students have 2 recesses a week, as opposed to our full-day students who have 2 recesses a day, as well as daily lunch at school. So full-day kindergarten really does just provide that important time for instruction, intervention, as well as play-based learning. I have a couple of teachers this year really exploring play-based learning and seeing the benefits that it brings to our students, because that's just how kids learn best. And full-day kindergarten allows them the freedom to incorporate that in their days. And so as part of this pilot, we have looked at what that financial impact will look like to the district. And after working with Jeff and Bob, it looks like there will actually be a savings by moving to the full-day kindergarten model as opposed to staying in the half-day and full-day model. So right now, we charge a tuition of $4,500 a student for a full-day program. That currently brings us approximately $178,000 a year. Because we have a half-day program and we collect tuition, we're not able to collect our full adequacy through the state. Moving to a universal full-day model will allow us to do that. And so that additional adequacy aid isn't quite as much as the tuition, but there are other places where we're going to save money, like the elimination of our mid-bus. We right now run a bus that brings home our morning kindergartners and then does a loop to bring back our afternoon kindergartners, and that will realize us a cost savings. It does look like there will be a positive financial impact to this proposal as well. I mentioned that we can achieve this with our current staffing levels by reallocating current staff that we have. There will be a teacher and a support staff member in every classroom to continue with the same level of service and support that we've been able to do, and we'll still be able to maintain our student ratios across the building. As part of this split, we absolutely want to collect data and ensure that we're seeing the gains and the improvements from this process. So I've shared with you some current data from our students, and it shows trends of how many students, for example, were in our half-day K program, how many students were retained, which also has a financial impact on the district, what percentage of students have become identified for special education, and what percentage of students require intervention as a result of half-day kindergarten. So next year, what we'd like to do is to collect data to make sure that we're seeing those gains that we want to see. What I'd like to do is really use a growth model and demonstrate the progress that students making during this program. And what that means is not necessarily looking just at proficiency and who's made it to grade level, but taking students from where they enter our kindergarten program and seeing if they're making at least, if not more, than a year's growth due to full-day kindergarten. And that's data that we can achieve for the 2067 school year, But I'd also like to study this cohort going up a couple of years to see the gains and impacts in this cohort as it moves through our school. One thing that's interesting is I looked at some of our iReady data, for example, and iReady has a great report that shows your progress toward annual growth. So annual growth, we want every child to make at least a year's growth every year at school. And as you look at the difference between students who have been in half-day kindergarten versus full-day kindergarten, there is a discrepancy. In half-day kindergarten, we see about 50% of those students making their progress toward their annual growth, compared to 70% of their students who are attending for a full day. And I can't stress it enough, this is really about the amount of time and opportunities that students have to engage in learning. What question do you have? That was a lot of information.
Before the questions start, I apologize. We had some adjusted enrollment numbers, and I don't think that it caught up with our finances here. So on that page where it's showing, you see lost tuition revenue 178, additional adequacy aid 174, 264. That's a loss of revenue for us of $3,936. And that's okay. We're saving $38,614, so that final number of savings would potentially be $34,678. I just wanted to point that out because that number of $42,550 favorable is not correct. We did make some adjustments for our most recent enrollment numbers to try and project a little bit more accurately.
Yeah, and I mentioned, I think at the last board meeting, I think at that time I had about 77 students interested in full day K. That number's continued to grow. I think I'm at 80 as of today. So that's where some of that shift came in.
And if I could just point out too, because when I did the math at first, the math didn't work out for me. And it's not just because I'm bad at math. When I did the adequacy aid times the 80 students, when it came to revenue, I came out with a totally different number. And then Mr. Dowd schooled me on the fact that if you are a student with a disability, we don't charge you tuition. If you're a student on free and reduced lunch, we don't charge you tuition. We have parents who will sometimes self-report difficulty in making those payments. We work with those families. So the number that you see represents, if you're trying to do the math of 80 times 4,500, it's not going to work. Really what this comes down to is what we actually take in revenue. And then, the thing that we don't often like to talk about too is we also have some parents that are delinquent and they don't pay us. And so that's reflected in the numbers that you see here. And also students that are 6 years old.
Yep.
We don't charge them. And then if you're a red shirt kindergarten student, come back for year 2, try it again, we don't charge you as well. So the revenue is, that's actual revenue.
So I definitely like that we're giving disadvantaged students that need a little bit more help, the break. But on the side of early identification, if students are going to kindergarten full day versus part-time, is that going to give us an advantage long-term to help them academically?
Yes. So absolutely. So we are a school that actually receives Title I funds due to our free and reduced numbers. We're targeted needs, so we don't receive a lot of funds, but those can be used to support students who may be economically disadvantaged, to provide them extra support. What I'm hoping to see from this kindergarten pilot is that students will come into our full day program, tuition will no longer be a barrier, and they're going to start right with the rest of their group, not behind in first grade.
And there's other data pieces here too that that some of them that are difficult to quantify, but some not. And that is, when you look at our half-day students have a higher rate of referral to special education, and it can be difficult to make that correlation. However, we've talked about it here, like this is going to be a cohort to watch, right? If next year there's increased enrollment and you have some budget challenges and you can't actualize universal kindergarten going forward, you should watch this cohort of students to see what are the referral rates, what are the performance rates, because these kids would have been that one cohort that got that extra dose of kindergarten. And the other, so there is a challenge in this too that we talked about today, like do you want to talk about what happens if we, right now you're saying 80 students, Dr. Cheney, like, what happens if we have like an onslaught of students that decide to enroll because they know that it's universal and free?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So our policy for the board is capped at 18 for kindergarten, which with 5 teachers, what this recommendation includes, can have up to 90 students in that grade level before I hit policy. And so to get 10 more students between now and August would be unusual and unexpected. But if we had to move forward with a 6th classroom, I'd have to look at my numbers across the board. I do have some smaller cohorts of classes that we could look at potentially having a few more students if needed and reallocating. But that to get 10 students between now and September 1st really would be a very unusual circumstance. I do expect 2 to 5 more students that we'll hear from. What I think will be a little bit different this year is usually come July, I have a cohort of about 5 to 8 students that withdraw from our kindergarten program because they were unable to get a full-day kindergarten placement. And so then they're placed in daycares or other places parents simply need full-time for many families. And then they come back to us in 1st grade with a variety of experiences and a variety of needs. So this would keep kids right at the central school, preparing them for 1st grade.
So our special ed percentage is around 24%, which is a bit higher than the state average, which is about 20. Long term, is there a savings if you do early interventions? Is that where you can have students that maybe need less support later on? So is that less paras and that sort of thing?
I wish I could give you a definitive answer. It's similar to the question when we talked about like the 2-classroom renovation and expanding special education program. Yeah, can we guarantee that? No. But you got to think of like a student in special education, it's not exclusively that you have a disability. There's 3 prongs to it. You are a student with a disability, it impacts your education, and it requires specially designed instruction. So in theory, if there won't necessarily be less disabled students with disabilities that come our way, but with full day kindergarten, that second prong of it impacts their education would be reduced in a setting where they have twice as much instruction. And so that should be what essentially would be a cost savings. I hate to say that we would need less paras because we need more paras right now. I'd like to get at an equilibrium where the number that we have is the number that we need. And then another thing too, there's a tremendous amount of administrative costs in the paid kindergarten program. When you have somebody who we have to bill parents, we have to sometimes change parents for payments. We have to process these payments. So there's a challenge in that as well. That letting go of is going to allow for us to, some of those indirect costs will go away that we can't measure.
Jeff, for Pinkerton, we have to pay more than the basic when we have special education students that go to Pinkerton, correct? Do we know roughly how much?
Per student for Pinkerton?
Yeah.
It's very program heavy,
Okay.
and it also depends on the level of support it's receiving from, let's say, a paraeducator.
Okay.
Those costs are, I'm happy to pay them to the extent that it keeps the students in Pinkerton, even though they're quite a bit, but there are a number of different facets that we look at when we get billed.
So long term, if we do early interventions, we could, but there's no guarantee we could see savings, and it could be more cost effective, in addition to the fact that we'd be saving some money.
Yes, but I will just throw, research is pretty clear about the benefits of early intervention. And we know that if we don't work really to get kids to read by the end of 3rd grade, then that gap is even more challenging. And so to start students at a gap and a disadvantage, is something that we're looking to see how we can support.
Pro full day kindergarten, I've been saying that I think for many meetings. That said, I am curious if you could get us the same breakdown for full K.
Sure.
What the retention special ed identification numbers are, just for fun to compare. But very much in support early intervention, pays off later.
Do we need a vote on it? And
So what I may recommend the board do, you certainly can vote tonight. It would be helpful in terms of we got some planning to do. However, I would say is that this is a topic that is near and dear to a lot of people in this community. It may benefit the board to wait until the next meeting in order to collect or solicit feedback from the committee. That's just a recommendation. If the board really felt passionate about this, you certainly could vote this evening.
can we,
If I could, if I understand the discussion correctly, this would not result in an increase in our overall budget costs for kindergarten.
Correct, we may experience some savings.
So from the sort of general concern about budget, it seems to be positive in several respects, not only in the amount we have to spend for the kindergarten activities. So it seems to make sense to me that we should move forward with it. I understand your question about seeing how full-day kindergartners are working out, but from the experiences of my related teachers, full-day kindergarten is essential. So coming from that perspective, I would heartily agree.
we're also, I think, the only Hingham County district that doesn't have full-day kindergarten at this point.
To bring that up.
Londonderry finally got a full-day kindergarten for next year, so.
And, there's nothing that, prevents you from voting tonight. I mean, if the board feels passionate about it, you can. I sent an email a little over an hour ago, and I had 2 people respond positively to the kindergarten. Now, that's not a lot of time in order to come back with feedback, but, there will be a few people who will lament the loss of the half-day program, because we're replacing the half-day program, because there are some parents who use it sort of as a supplement to their own programming. And I also think there might be a question too, there are some school districts that put it out on a ballot. There are other school districts where the board just makes a decision. I think that this is an appropriation for the board because it does not have fiscal impact. And we're also not committing, the board is not committing anything beyond next year. It gives you the opportunity to continue to solicit feedback from the community and then look at the data that Dr. Chu will bring back to make long-term determinations. So the board would like to do.
Taking a vote, you should probably know there's a gap, and I'm not sure. Think about it if you haven't thought yet. Our adequacy for next year is based on population for this year. This year includes half, which will only receive half adequacy. So into next year, we'll have full day K. We would be getting adequate for those students who are currently half students in the current year. That will be the basis for next year's adequacy aid. There was a grant available, and if the board approves kindergarten, a full day kindergarten, even on a pilot basis, my intent to apply for that. That'll fill that gap, and that'll provide us with the additional half adequacy. So next year, we would be getting essentially adequacy on a full day K student equivalent.
Thank you. I'd be willing to do that.
I'd be comfortable voting on it now. I do think, though, that we have to be very open about the fact that it is a pilot program and that this may not go long-term, because the other consideration, too, is with the NASDAQ survey, we're looking at an increase in the central school where we may have to roll it back to part-time in 5 or 10 years. So,
Or even next year. I mean, this really is the convergence of a few different factors. And the main one is that where, we have a larger class that's leaving. We have a smaller first grade class coming in. If we had larger first grade classes coming in, this either wouldn't be possible or be really challenging in the space constraints. And so next November, when the NESDEC projections come out, you may look at those and be like, wow, we got a big class coming in. We need to make decisions about what we're going to do with kindergarten and make them quick.
Board members under discussion?
I will make a motion to approve the full-day kindergarten pilot program for next year.
Board members all that approve, or discussion, sorry, more discussion.
All set.
I think we're doing what's in the best interest of kids, while as we may have unhappy parents. I think that result is positive and we have to make things equitable. So those that approve.
I was listening to the thunder.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back to Mr. Dowd for 26-27 school meal, nope, kidding, 26-27 default budget reallocation, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, sorry, just give me 1 second to.
Before Mr. Thompson gets into that aspect, I've included the MS-22R, which is our approved appropriations from the Department of Revenue Administration. And there's a breakdown as to what makes that up. And really just for informational purposes in your packet.
All right, so moving on to the default discussion. So at the March 24th meeting, you'll see the memo from that meeting in your packet. We are tasked with, because our on budget did not receive a majority vote from voters, we now are in default. And that default calculation requires us to recalculate the budget minus $109,433. And so we came to the March 24th meeting with a couple of recommendations that included the possible special education coordinator, reducing a 5 ESOL teacher, reducing some software costs of a grant that we received, the elimination of the family and consumer science position due to retirement, and then also the HCS gym CAF partition wall. And so after collect individual feedback from board members and actually had inspection of the wall, I'm going to recommend that the board reduce the budget. Now again, the budget is we're only cutting $109,000. The law requires us to cut only what is the new default number. So I'm recommending that we eliminate for year the HCS gym partition wall. That would reduce the budget by the $109,433. And I do want to be clear that the does need to be replaced. We would not have it to our budget if we thought that we didn't replace it. However, there's been a lot of conversation in between the last meeting about things that we could do to extend the life of the wall. And in fact, our newest board member, Mr. Weimer, had an opportunity to look at the wall and engage in some of the problem solving around that. And we believe that with modifications to the wall, some adjustment repairs, we can extend the life. I would just caution the board that this is not a permanent, and it's something that we still need to have on the radar as early as next year for replacement, either through the operating budget or as a separate line item for the capital reserve fund. So my recommendation is the wall.
Okay.
Board members.
If we are not able to fill the fax position, and like for the entire year, could we then use that money at the end of last year to do the replacement on the wall?
You could. I would not recommend that, though.
Okay.
And I say that because for a couple of different reasons. Number one, what I think is best for students. And I think that experience in that classroom, like it is incumbent upon us to really find somebody to do that. If we can't, we need to create an equally engaging and meaningful opportunity for our students. Personally, the thought of cutting a teacher position to pay maintenance item, I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking of cutting it permanently, but can't fill it because those positions are really hard to fill because there's no certification programs literally anymore in the state.
Yeah, and I actually, Principal Bernay met today to discuss this, and she's been working with Nicole on a contingency plan. And the board has seen this before when we've created a writing class, we've created a STEAM class. So there's already some discussion underway about if that class was not Family and Consumer Science, which is a tried and true program, what could it be? And I don't think we're ready for prime time on what the could it might be, but that definitely is part of the contingency planning.
Can we, if we're struggling to find somebody, can we try to do some social media, like we're looking, like, because forgive me if I'm wrong, if somebody had a degree, they could do an alternative into that role, or?
Theory, they could. So basically what they could do is they could enter into a site-based licensing program. That is challenging given the fact that one of the requirements of a site-based licensing program is a mentor, and the mentor needs to be certified in Family and Consumer Science. The issue with that is that there are not a lot of other middle schools that have that program, and so that can be a little of a challenge. Are we up for the challenge if the right person walked through the door? Absolutely, but it's not as easy as another perfect position that there's more individuals out there. Not a lot of middle schools have a Family and Consumer Science program anymore. Not a judgment on the program, it's a wonderful program, they don't have the people.
Does the mentor have to be a middle school or could it be a high school?
It could be they have to have that Family and Consumer Science credential, to be the credential that would be required for the position here.
Is it possible to look for somebody that would have that credential that might want to do it for when we reach out to try to the community if we need to?
We could, and what I will say too, that like we're advertising for positions. I sent something out to parents this evening, just kind of putting it on people's radars that we have positions available. I would say that our heavy recruitment, social media, and then other word of mouth for some of the positions, it really hasn't occurred yet because we're waiting on the board to determine what direction they'd want to go. And so what I would recommend is make the decision, deliberate on the decision for the default. And what I would be willing to do is next work with the chair at the next meeting, have a conversation about the allocation of our teaching staff and any decisions we may want to make based upon open positions. And we hope in that time that like an angel falls from the sky and the perfect candidate walks through the door and we can hire for it and we're good to go.
Well, so the incoming superintendent may know somebody that has a fax vacation.
That is absolutely true.
Okay, so I think for me, I'm looking at removing the gym wall from the budget as opposed to cutting a position. What do other people think?
Appropriate action, particularly because the wall, while it does need repair, if not replacement, not, in my opinion, as important as the teaching capacity that we have. So,
Other board members? So I guess I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we
Second.
eliminate the 109,000 from wall in the gym CAF of the central school.
109 or 134?
109, because we have to set the budget at what the default was on the warrant.
Okay.
So in theory, and I want to be careful with this, like, yes, there is the difference of about, about $25,000. That, in theory, would be returned as part of the unreserved fund balance, or because we're talking about maintenance, there could be an overhead in a maintenance line, and that could be used for that. But either way, like, you're not getting it back right now, but at the end, because it's unreserved, it would come back in theory.
Yeah, I'm good with it, and we can just put it on as a warrant article for next.
Okay. Second that. Okay. All those that approve. Discussion? Nope, okay, seeing none. All those that approve. Okay. All right, so next item would be school meal pricing with Nev.
Thank you. You have a in front of you, which I'll try and bring up here. And around this time of the year, annually, we have to set our lunch and meal prices for the subsequent year, or ensuing year, or coming year. And we are at a point need to do some increases, I believe. There's a tool that we use from the USDA, which gives us some guidance as to what the food prices be. For reasons not clear to me, or perhaps anyone in humanity, there is no price tool. I think maybe it just came out today, but we haven't been able to look at it. So we're just eyeballing where we need to be, and we're looking at a basic increase of 15 cents per meal for elementary and middle school breakfast, for adult breakfast, and for across the board elementary lunch, middle school lunch, and adult lunch. So our 3 meals would go from $1.75 to $1.90. Actually, for middle school, adult breakfast would go from $2.50 to $2.65. Elementary lunch would go from $3.20 to $3.35. Middle school lunch would go from $3.45 to $3.60. Adult lunch would go from $4.35 to $4.50.
So I would be looking for a motion to approve that, but as a discussion.
At least this pricing for some time, is that right?
I don't think we did that last year.
Okay, because it's showing that it's based on this pricing history that you've provided, that lunch went up, but the price has been pretty constant for the last 3 years.
23, 24 was a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there has been, let's face it, a significant increase in those costs. So, for me, it seemed modest. 15 cents is a modest amount to increase it. Now, on the lunch side, so we're looking at a relatively modest amount. It's, again, 15 cents, which, again, seems like a modest amount given the increase in costs of food and related costs.
Mm-hmm.
So I, for one, don't see that these are unreasonable.
I will make a motion to accept the recommended pricing.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those who approve. Next up, the 25-26 Superintendent Evaluation Progress Report. In accordance with CBIR, the board was provided with the compiled responses from the superintendent's direct reports as well as the superintendent's self-evaluation. Complete evaluations from each board member were then gathered and provided to the board's review prior to tonight's meeting. The board will schedule a non-public meeting on May 12th and again May 26th to continue with the process for the 25-26 evaluation of the superintendent. And then moving on to board liaison, I think we need to.
Thing that the senior member of the group here assigned policy, so I can learn more about policy.
I think
I'm
that
certainly
would be great.
up for learning more. I would also, though, like to be in the facilities category. And if that's acceptable, I'd like to represent the school board on the CIP committee for the town, if that's acceptable to the board.
Oh, policy committee, yes. VIP, I feel like we haven't had, have we had representation? Does Denise
Last
on
year,
that?
Mr. Kurtz did attend a few meetings.
Okay.
And there was, and 2 years ago, I think, a presentation made actually by, I don't know if you were there, but I know that the school did make a presentation regarding the capital work. Again, philosophically, I would think Bob Thompson has done a great job of is bringing down in the school district a little bit closer to try and create the collaboration that makes sense for parties. So I'm just looking at it in that spirit and saying that this is another opportunity, given the town's considering CIP in aggregate. Perhaps there are ways to see the town and school board work together.
I think that's important. Rich, you're on facilities. I don't know if we can have 2 people or if
Well, that's really more just the
budget meeting.
yeah, it's the budget workshop. It's the
Rich,
table you
Are
sit
you
at.
open to moving, or would you, yeah?
What do you want to do instead?
So the HCS,
The middle or central school? Middle. Whatever.
you're good with HCS, Rich? HMS.
Yeah, he's taking
Carl,
my
you're
job.
going to, all right, so you guys are swapping.
There you go. We'll do that.
Okay, so Carl's CS, Rich is HMS, Bob is on facilities, and then we just have vouchers. Vouchers.
What's the nature of vouchers?
So I'll do it if Denise does not want to do it. Vouchers, it's signing off. Well, why don't you explain it, Jeff?
Coming to our office and reviewing all the backup and all the detail behind our expenditures.
I'm more than happy to do it if it helps. I've got the time.
A lot of it goes out electronically.
I don't work, so I'm the able person.
I don't know if Denise has mentioned to you, Mr. Thompson, no, so Bob, it's yours.
I love it.
All right, does anyone else have anything else?
So Denise would stay on policy and Bob would join.
Mhm.
And then you and Denise are staying on communications? Okay.
Any other discussion on this? Anybody? Okay, and then members, in your pets, we have policies for a second read. Mr. Thompson, has there been any changes since the first read?
Ms. Denton, when we have a moment, would the board mind going back and could we just make sure that we covered all the assignments? Because I'm not sure, did you talk about the technology and the wellness committee? I'm not sure I heard all of it.
Yep, so HCS, education and curriculum, will be Carl. HMS education, Rich. Student services, myself. Facilities, Bob. Technology, Mrs. Meyer. Wellness committee, myself. Policy committee, Mrs. Meyer and Bob. Safety committee, Carl. Vouchers, Bob. Communication committee, myself and Denise, and then the delegate is Carl.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Also, Denise is watching, she just landed and she's watching on her phone and she's good with policy assignments. She just landed in Boston. She's watching this on her phone. Hi, Denise.
Okay,
Does she
so-
have any comments?
Yes, did she say
She-
anything?
No, she can't unless she logs in and it becomes official.
Well, she could tell you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so policies, second read, we have the policies EEA, Student Transportation Services, EEAB, Establishment of School Bus Routes, FBB, Enrollment Projections, IHAA, World Languages Program, and JLDBA, Behavior Management and Intervention.
Bob, could you do a quick snapshot of what these are?
Sure. So really, these are like earnest attempts to update our policies within a reasonable amount of time. We aspire for 3 years, even though it's probably not realistic when we have 300 policies. So if you look, many of these are not substantive changes. They are either minor changes in law, updated policies, from the New Hampshire School Boards Association, or there are changes that are in the 306s, which is the education regulations. So for example, IHA World Language Program, that's the result of some changes in the ed rules. They're not substantive, but we want to make sure that our policies are up to date.
Who's our transportation coordinator for the bus
That is
routes?
such a wonderful question. Where do we land with that, Mr. Dowd?
I guess that's me.
Yes.
Along with your food service director.
Yes.
So, in addition to all the other titles.
But I say that because we spent a considerable amount of time at a policy meeting having that conversation about, okay, we have contracted services for our transportation. And, first student that does our regular education, they have transportation coordinators, route coordinators. They're part of a much larger company. But we also work with other transportation companies. And when we have a parent who needs the support of the district in resolving a transportation issue, they need someone in the district to go to, and that's Mr. Dowd. So he is the transportation coordinator. We can add that to CFO, BA, Human Resources Director, and generally all-around nice guy.
That's why his emails are always so long.
That's right.
We get to vote on that.
I will make a motion to adopt EEA, Student Transportation Services, EEAB, Establishment of School Bus Routes, FBB, Enrollment Projections, IHAH, World Languages Program, and JLDBA, Behavior Management Intervention.
I'll second for discussion, if I could, Madam Chair. There, one observation that I can make for the public is that these have not been updated in a minimum of 7 years, and in some cases 10, more than 10 years. So given the legislature's penchant for changing the law, many of these are in fact being updated to address those changes. So it's not as if we're trying to reinvent the wheel. Our beloved government has done that for us. I also noticed, however, that the JLDBA, Behavior Management and Intervention, is somewhat limited in its characterization of that whole process. And from talking with Mr. Thompson, I understand that there are a number of other policies that relate to that, and that may be something that we might want to look at as we look at future policies to make sure that we recognize the relationship of other policies to the ones we're reviewing. Not to say that there'd be any change, but just to understand and be aware of how they relate to one another. And this one on behavior management and intervention, to me, is probably one of the most important. And given the discussions that I've listened to at the legislature over the past couple of weeks, I can assure you that there's momentous discussion on issues like this. So,
Any other discussion? All those in favor? At this time, any board comments and correspondence?
If I could, I'd just like to reiterate the fact that the public is entirely welcome to go into YouTube and see all of the school board related discussions at the legislature. Both this and the House have lovely 6-hour sessions on many days a month. I've partaken in leaving my YouTube on for many hours and whole days to listen to the detailed discussion, and I have to say the detail or the relative nature of these to really minute issues. And some of the bills, frankly, to me are a little bit over the top in terms of the level of, if you want to call it, sophistication they're trying to incorporate into a state law rather than letting the local school departments make the decision. And I know that the school board association is in favor of some of the bills that are being currently discussed, and I can understand why, because I think there needs to be more latitude given to schools. But for the public's interest, I think everybody should realize that it's a highly bureaucratic process, and that does restrict to many, to a great extent, what school boards are able to do. So it's been an interesting lesson.
I did get a question online about that I said I would ask at this meeting about number of homeschool students we have in Hampstead versus number of EFA students we have in town.
Yeah, so that's a question, and give me just 1 second. I want to pull up our homeschool data. So let's start our EFA students. So last time I checked, which was a couple of weeks, we had 22 students that were receiving in EFA that are from Hampstead. And looking at the data, there was only one student that I could identify that had attended and left. The other students were students that were previously either enrolled in a homeschool program, private school program, or they had entered in at kindergarten. In fact, the majority of EFA students for the data for Hampstead was students entering for the first time, like what would be kindergarten, are attending EFAs. As far as homeschool is concerned, and we are total within the boundary of Hampstead that we are aware of. There are 51, way different than the number I told about before.
Also different than the number I found online.
Yes, so there's a real challenge with this data, and that is that when parents are responsible for when they enter into a school program, they have to basically work with someone who's going to oversee their program. They have 3 choices: the local superintendent, the commissioner of education, or the head of a charter school. And so there are occasions for the students that are entering for the first time, what would be kindergarten or first grade, if they go homeschool and they don't select the superintendent, and many of them don't, never know about those students. We also have situations where homeschool students will move from another community. We never know about those students. There's also times where students unenroll and they go to a private school and then they enroll in homeschool. And so the data that we have, we can track 51 people. Those are people who have disclosed to us that they homeschool. The number, I think, would be higher. The question that is often asked by the board is, what have we seen in terms of trending data? And I don't have it in front of me, but prior to the start of this school year, a jump in the number of high school students moving to homeschool. but generally our numbers have remained, other than high school, have remained relatively steady.
Are home students tracked by the state? Like, is there data somewhere? Does anyone have the data somewhere to say?
Only if they select the Commissioner of Education, and tracking is probably not the right word to use. There is notification, similar to what we do is we have notification of contact information. The law does require us to make yearly communication to them about child find and concerns about children with disability. The dyslexia law also requires us to make annual notification as well. But we can't notification of families that we don't know about, unfortunately.
New Hampshire's a lot more lenient that if you do not want to have your child enrolled, you have the ability to not disclose information about that child unless there's a possibility of neglect and a report on that, at least as far as I understand. So.
And, you know, the pitch that we make is I do have conversations with our homeschool families on a periodic basis, especially when they're transitioning to homeschool. You know, we are your public school, and it's not all or nothing. And we have had that engage in extracurricular activities, co-curricular, take a class. If you are a parent or a caregiver that is providing a homeschool program and you're not good at math, we are. So to your local public school, we're happy to enroll them. You know, that's, you can do a la carte. And in fact, we appreciate, you know, parental rights and the ability to be able to do that, so.
You can do sports, you can do plays, yeah. More than welcome.
Anyone else have any comments?
So I have an update from the New Hampshire School Board Association on when it comes to tracking for bills. So there are approximately 400 educational bills that started the session. They're down to about 125 that are still live. The New Hampshire School Board Association only has 3 full-time people, and usually there's a finance committee and then a policy committee for education. But there's been other attempts to limit or affect local government. So there's, on one of the governmental committees, they were actually looking at, so that if you have a default budget, you go by what your previous years it is without your contracted, your cracks raising it. So you would have to absorb whatever say like I think we have around $500,000 increases in salary. We would have to then cut $500,000 worth of additional resources. That isn't dead, but it's not being moved forward as of now. But there's a variety of different ways that people are trying to address what they perceive as issues with local government and local singing, and it's making it really hard for the people who are working to try to advocate for public education to make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
So the governor sign a bill about government school spending. Is that correct? Okay. Personnel report.
All right, in your board packet, there is personnel report. And we will, so for resignations, professional resignations, have 3. It's Maggie Garside, who is the HCS elementary classroom teacher. Eleni Goodrow, who's the HCS language pathologist. Nicole Ponte, who is the district EOL or ELL teacher. Administrative resignations, we have Charles Angwin as the HCS Special Education Bill Coordinator. And then we have a renomination for staff member Cressa Bonnell, who next year's assignment would be HMS English Language Arts teacher. I will entertain any questions that folks have. If it is of a personal nature, we would need to convene a non-public meeting to discuss specific information.
I just want to say I appreciate the staff members that did work here this year, even if they're moving on, and it's not an easy job, and thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the resignations and nominations.
Any discussion? Okay, all those that approve?
All right, and under the superintendent report, I'm going to ask Melissa McDonald, Director of Student Services, to come and update us on the PAGS process.
Good evening. I wanted to provide you with an update on our PAGS process. Just a reminder, PAGS stands for the Special Education Program Approval and General Supervision Process that the Bureau of Special Education Support does. We are monitored every 6 years. So we have completed our first 90 days. The first 90 days is what's called the discovery phase. It started on January 5th and ended on April 6th. During this time, we submitted an overview of our district, an organizational chart of our staffing from the SAU all the way down to the building levels, all of our procedures and forms, and updated our special education procedures manual. I worked closely with our admin assistant, Jessica Kate, to clean up our student services website under our district or page of our website. So you will see presentation that I've given, as well as some of the required documentation as part of this process there, and hopefully easily accessible. We had 24 SACID numbers pulled. SACID stands for State Assigned Student ID Number. The students are assigned when they register in as an incoming student. So 24 files were pulled from preschool all the way up through age 22. And that is out of the 270 students that we have currently on IEs. When these files are reviewed, what they are looking for is to make sure our IEPs are in compliance. They're looking for service provider logs for the services outlined in the students' IEPs, any transportation logs for students who may receive specialized transportation, as well as progress reports on the reporting cycle. So if we are on quarters every quarter, trimesters every trimester, semesters every semester. We've now entered the next phase process, which is called the verification phase. So now Bureau of Special Ed is reviewing everything that we've submitted and reaching out to us to gather further information as needed. This started with this past Monday evening at 6 p.m. There was the PIC, Parent Information Center, hosted an online discussion with families who registered to discuss improving educational outcomes for students with disabilities within our district. They will summarize all of that information and provide us with the feedback based on the conversation that was had. Last I heard, we had 17 families were signed up, and they were very excited about that. That's a high number of families with the districts that they have completed this process with. Today, the Bureau of Special Education Support sent a survey to all of our student services, professional staff, and support staff. This survey will remain open for 30 days. It is anonymous, so anybody who is submitting feedback, they are not collecting names or addresses. They're just asking for the position and what you hold in their general positions. They're looking for feedback such as frequency of how the district communicates with families, about the numbers of students on IEPs, information about the level of support the district provides within the role that they hold, and what barriers may impede the ability for us to provide more support as needed. And then also asking for some input about what professional development should be or could be offered to support the role that the holds. So this process, part of the phase, will be done around mid-June. They will be reaching out as they need further information and then providing us with a summary report, in which I'd be happy to share once it is received. Any questions? It was a group effort, sure.
My district's gonna start.
Good luck. Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, and just a couple of real additional items. So today I had the opportunity to visit fourth grade classes that were being taught by our Hampstead Pinkerton science from Mr. Breeda's class. It was really nice to see these former students. They seem all grown up, and they're sharing their passion with students, and students are very engaged. They were in a lesson where and I'm not a science person, so this is a struggle, but where they were talking about the separation, the density of versus oil, and it was an excellent hands-on demonstration, and the kids, I think, got out of it, both our high school age students and our fourth grade. So a great collaboration with Pinkerton. Also tomorrow I have the opportunity to go to Concord to attend the Student Innovation Conference, where the middle school anti-bullying club is to present. As the board is aware, the anti-bullying club is does now the traveling roadshow. They travel to other school districts to be able to present assemblies and presentations on anti-bullying. And they'll be highlighted at the Innovations Conference tomorrow. And I do want to brag about our students and educators for a moment, because you may recall a few years ago, there was what was called the Innovations Conference. And that was 2 days of learning that really focused on adults, on teachers. And the radical idea that one school district decided to bring students and have them do the full and total presentation. Those were Hampstead students. They presented on the food pantry that's outside of the school here, the Salt Box Food Pantry. So since that time, they have now broken that conference into two pieces. There's the adult learning innovations, and there's the student learning innovations. That's a result of Hampstead. And again, every year we're invited to present, and I'm excited to attend this conference with our students. Also, just like to highlight very quickly open enrollment. We keep talking about it. There's a lot of discussion. There's news articles online. Just another update. It's moved out of conference, and the bill's going to head next to the House for a full vote. Some minor changes, and we don't need to go into full detail because there's still a long way to go here. But the new ideation with this bill is that if a Hampstead student were to decide to go to another school district, Hampstead is not responsible for paying the tuition to that district. That would be a deal breaker. What they would receive instead is additional state aid. So if a student from Hampstead were to decide, hypothetically, to go to Timberlane, Timberlane School District would receive a minimum of $9,201 in aid, compared to just the typical $4,100 big aid. So we would not be on the hook for that. So there's still a lot of questions about open enrollment, and again, we still have to go through the House, the Senate, potentially committee conference to resolve any issues, and then we'd have to go to the governor, and there is a big question mark about what the governor is going to do with open enrollment. And one of the issues that we have to pay very close attention to is this concept of capacity. So in the current bill, we would be required to consider, we essentially would have develop an enrollment process for non-resident students more than what we already have in our JAFE policy. And what the current requires is for us to consider our capacity, which the current bill defines as the maximum number of students the school could educate without needing more staff. That is concerning. One, it's very ambiguous. Two, that traditionally has had smaller classes. And that definition of capacity does not, in my interpretation, align with our values of having smaller class sizes. And that is, it also provides leeway, stating the capacity set by the school board need not equal the maximum number of pupils otherwise allowed by law. Still more to come. There's also a lot of questions about What about our students with disabilities? What about transportation? So there's still a lot of questions to be answered, and this has a long way to go, but we need to pay very close attention to this. And that is really it. I'll entertain any questions that the board might have.
I have a question. The $9,000 payment, does that diminish or take away from monies that would ordinarily come as state aid to us? So we would lose the 4,700 or whatever it is.
Base 4,100, yeah.
Right, so that would be deduction by having a student go somewhere else.
It would,
The
yes.
$9,000 is not related to the impact it would have on our budget. That's a separate state factor.
That is correct, yeah. So we lose adequacy aid, base of 4,100, and again, the aid goes up for students with disabilities, soon to be reduced, but the minimum amount for every student we have is $4,100. And so that money would travel with a child to the new district. But at least we're not on the hook for the full per pupil cost for Hampstead, because that's a lot higher. The state has a education trust, is that correct? Yeah. So it comes out, that money is sort of guaranteed, so adequacy does not necessarily need to make it through their process every year. It is automatically in there, and then the state issues it to the school districts. And I can tell you, it is a very, very complex process. They're very lucky to have Jeff that works very closely with his counterparts and people at the state to ensure that we're maxing the amount of adequacy that we get for every kid.
There's a New Hampshire School Board Association webinar that will explain it, but when I say explain, okay. It doesn't, yeah, it's still really complicated, even if you've watched it twice.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. That's it. All right. Thank you.